let me ask you something.
Okay.
Before we get into the story.
All right.
All right, I really need you to kind of snuggle in because today's story is going to be a creepy one from a very good author. So I'm gonna get you extra scared right at the beginning.
Okay.
What would you do? Picture yourself laying in your bed. It's like 3:30 in the morning. There's a small lamp on, illuminating beside your bed, right?
Mm-hmm.
What would you do if there's a man my size, completely nude, sweaty as shit? You have two options. Would you rather he sings beginning of Jackson 5's ABC, or if he sings that Gary Jules cover of Mad World that was popular in Donnie Darko? Which would you rather he sing?
Can I kill myself?
That is out of the question.
Then probably ABC.
See, I was going to say Mad World. So that tells a lot about us and I guess our sleep paralysis demons.
So what's your point in asking that?
Welcome back to Creepcast. Today we are going to be reading My Dad Ate Meat from a Deer That Walked on Two Legs. Now, he's acting kind of strange. Isaiah, why don't you tell us about this seasoned author that we've read before?
Oh, you take me from these scenarios and you ask me questions and I'm expected to perform as if nothing happened. This story is from This story is from
1, 2, 3. C's story me. ABC. 1, 2, 3. Baby, you and me now.
Okay. This story is from Christian Wallace, who I'm sure you guys are very familiar with. Every time we've covered one of his stories on the show, it has been a banger. If you have forgotten, he's the guy that did the roleplay videos. So my wife has taken our roleplay too far. My husband's taken our roleplay too far. And he also did The Only Other Astronaut on This Mission, died 6 weeks ago.
Mr. Floppy.
Everything, and he's also under the pen name C.H. Wallace. Or Christian Wallace, I believe. He goes by both. He has this website, chwallace.com or .co.uk. And he also has several books out that are anthology stories. So With Teeth, Webbed, More Teeth, The Shimmering Tree. We're going to have all this stuff linked in the description. Be sure to check him out. He is one of the goats. So we're going to be hitting him again today. Hunter, what made you choose this story specifically from his catalog?
Well, one, I thought I saw some people talking about it, and then me and Harry were talking about it too, but there was just like there was just an image of a deer standing up on its hind legs, and I was like, oh, that's kind of a fun story idea. And then when I clicked it and I saw it was Christian Wallace, so I said, oh shit, this is the one. And it got me excited. Also, it's been a while since we've read Christian's work, and I feel like every time we read it, we have a good time. Every time.
Yeah.
He's a perfect hitter.
It always hits. He's a good shooter for sure. So I'm excited to get into it. I'm looking forward to it. Now, granted, this story has the title of Dad in it, which last time we read a story that had the title of Dad, it did not go so well. So do you have a contingency in place to blame Harry for everything if this goes wrong?
I'm going to have to, but also, you sound sick.
I am.
Are you sick?
Yes.
Are you going to power through? You're my little soldier?
I'm not that, but I'm going to do the episode.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, for people that don't know, after this recording, we're going to play No, I'm Not Human. It's a new horror game that's out. We played a little bit before on the Patreon. So if you want to go there and support the channel, feel free to check out the Patreon. We got an exclusive interview with Dathan Auerbach, the author of Pen Pal. So we've been having a fun time getting to interview some of the authors that we've been doing over on the Patreon. If you want to get that content, hey, go over there and check it out. All right. Also, just want to shout out all of the audio listeners on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And hey, thanks for giving us a positive review there. It sure does help. And then last but not least on this shill train is we got merch. Creepcast.
We do got merch.
Merch. It's up. It's below the video probably in the dashboard. We'll have a link in the description or probably the comment section. Just look for that. But if you want some nice swag, you want to be swagged out, then go check it out. Otherwise,
let's get into this bear trap. Look at this bear trap. Isn't that cool? You can get
the
that
bear
right
trap
now
shirt does go hard. The backpack is comically large and fun. It is. The shirts are very sick. I'm very stoked on them.
Mm-hmm. Yep. They knocked it out of the park with these. So if you guys want to get in on that, they're available for a limited time. Get them while you can. And we appreciate it.
Love you.
All right. Well, Hunter, are you ready to talk a story about a dad and deers that won't involve, that kind of violence, I hope?
I don't think that's going to be that kind of violence, but I'm going to think that this guy, if he's eating a deer, how do we know? Do you think he's going to grow antlers? Can we set up some bear traps now?
There's going to be some mention of CWD.
What is that?
That's all I got, really. It's probably going to be like a not deer / Wendigo kind of thing,
Oh, I see. I have a feeling that this is going to be his son. He's gonna be like, yeah, my daddy, he ate this weird meat and he's being weird. And I have a feeling that at the beginning, the dad, they're going to be going hunting and the kid's going to be like, I never really liked hunting. I'm not good at it. And at the end, he's going to have to kill his fucking dad is what I think it's going to be.
Yep. Good chance. Well, you ready to read it?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. The party was 2 weeks ago. I stole a few beers when the adults weren't looking and shared them with Lucy Sitkins away from the crowd. She drank hers greedily as we sat beneath the bough of a low tree, speaking low so no passerby could hear. Every time we whispered, we tilted our faces a little closer and closer. There was a moment where I thought she was going to rest her head on my shoulder as she told me about how she wanted to be a vet, and my heart skipped as I debated putting my arm around her waist. It was all cut short when her father, Larry, stood in front of everyone in the party and forced a beer can down his throat. I didn't see it. I only heard the cries that had us both sitting upright beneath the branches. By the time we got back to the party, the adults were escorting the kids away and ambulance sirens were fast approaching. Dad was there, and he told me to take my little sister home. The grim and frightening look on his face made me forget Lucy and the smell of beer on her breath. I try hard to remember if she ate from the barbecue. Sometimes I think she didn't. Other times I swear I can picture her biting into a burger and it's so vivid I think it must be a memory. It's moot either way. I'll never see her again. Interesting. That sounds like a total you move or like a move someone in your family would pull. Randomly, just like, hey guys, watch this, and then it becomes like a tragedy.
Yeah, did you guys know that you can actually eat beer cans? And immediately someone's like, oh my God, call the police! I like how quickly it escalated to. He's just like, yeah, the mountain on the can is blue, so it's cold. How did he get that? Also, I want to say it is impressive that he got it down that far.
Well, I think the implication is that her father was like a Wendigo tainted or something like that, to where you consume everything, you eat everything. Yeah, so he just shoved it down his mouth, which like tore open his throat, and while the ambulance got called and stuff. But the mention of, I'm trying to remember if she ate from the barbecue, means he was probably feeding everyone human meat or like meat from the deer that had this disease or whatever.
Yeah.
So he infected everyone.
He served them some deer.
Yeah. I felt a little gross when I went into school the next day and asked around if the stories about her dad were true. When my father got home the night of the party, he hadn't spoken to me or mom. He just went to bed and didn't tell us what happened. Come morning, I saw some of the older kids by the school gates and overheard them talking. The details made my stomach churn, but I wanted to know more. I didn't want to act all excited about something terrible, but this felt like the kind of thing people would be talking about for years. Larry Sitkins had swallowed a beer can.
Shoved it down his throat like a fucking boa constrictor eating an egg.
At least that's how one kid described it to me. There was more, of course. He'd praised Satan before slitting his own throat, gotten pissed drunk and fallen hard onto the ground while chugging a beer, tried to catch the can midair. Someone had punched him mid-sip. There were a lot of variations on what happened and how, but they were only theories that got turned into rumors. A lot of us were just trying to make sense of it. Larry was a pretty run-of-the-mill guy. He was a landscaper who made lame jokes at kids' birthday parties. He was about as nondescript as they came, at least as far as a bunch of teenagers were concerned. We got halfway through the day before Mr. Straub shut the bleachers on his neck. Oh, well, okay. He was in front of the cheerleaders. There were ambulances again, crying girls and boys, and even some of the teachers. Most of them just looked confused, except for Mr. Straub. I managed to catch a glimpse of him as I jogged over to find out what all the screaming was about. He looked empty of all thoughts and emotions, with his head set on a crooked angle. I always figured that was how people must look when dead, but apparently he'd been like that during the act. He'd walked up, perched his neck between the slided benches, and hit the remote button to slide the bleachers closed. Whole time was just slack-jawed and stupid looking, even as the metal mechanism crunched vertebrae and cartilage.
Oof.
I later learned Larry had been like this too when he killed himself. He was getting ready to pop the tab on a fresh beer when he simply stopped, looked up at the sky, and forced the whole thing down his throat in a single world-shattering moment.
Two instances too where it's both like neck, like cutting, like, you know what I mean, clogging the neck, and then also pinning it on their neck. I wonder if it just feels a bit too coincidental.
Yeah, I was wrong about the whole Wendigo thing about it being like to consume everything. It looks like they ate the meat equivalent of Bird Box. They ate the Bird Box to go order. What's that other movie where everyone? Oh, The Happening. They just throw themselves off of buildings and stuff.
That's such a funny movie, dude. I love that.
Oh, it's a great movie.
I love when the plants are pissed and they're killing us. But I love Mark Wahlberg's at the house, and the woman they're staying with is down the hallway. She's like, "Do you plan on killing me in my sleep?" And then Mark Wahlberg's like, "What?
What? No.
Murder me, gag me while I sleep, ma'am. What? No.
What?
It's like one of the worst line reads ever." I want to know I want to know what jokes the guy is saying at the birthday parties
before he kills himself.
No, I remember he's like, he's the kind of guy that made lame jokes. He's a landscaper, and he made lame jokes at birthday parties.
Oh yeah, well, just kind of like that. Honestly, like that character you did for the slip story. Like that, who called the pod popper? Who? Oh, it's me.
Okay, all right. So pretty innocent stuff. I didn't know if he was going more raunchy with it. Like if he was trying to be the cool uncle.
No, I don't think it'd be. I don't think he would phrase it as lame jokes. Then I think it's kind of like, oh, is this party for me? Huh? Oh, sorry. Oh, are you? Sorry, my bad. Like that kind of thing.
Yeah, I didn't know if he was walking up and being like, yeah, so a Chinese guy, a black dude, and a rabbi walked into a bar. You're like, what? Whoa, easy.
I mean, if that's what you want the character to be.
No, kids, come here. Come on. Where are you going? It's a good one. Here, I'll tell you. So anyways, they said, one kid's like, help. Dude, I've gotten trapped so many times at my fucking like white trash families, like a white trash family member's, like, I don't know, birthday party or, Christmas morning or something. No. You get trapped with like just somebody who's telling you like a joke like that. It's the fucking worst. The absolute worst. There's like no payoff either. And they almost always forget the joke. They almost always forget it. And
one of them leaves first.
Yeah, so then like a horse walks in,
because that's the punchline.
Like a horse walks in, and I don't know, but pretty much they're all mad at each other. That's like the approach a bit. You're like, okay.
It's a commentary on like race relations in the United States. That's what I was trying to get
fucking
at.
right. One of my family members, it's commentary. He's like, yeah, I don't know. I just thought that was funny as fuck. Pretty much all they would say. Something like that. Yeah, it's pretty much the funniest fucking thing I heard in my life. So.
Yeah, this is actually a joke that centers around like social issues and like economic downturn within communities since 1800. So it's pretty good joke.
I'd be like, wow, Uncle Rob, you're so smart.
Yeah, thanks, man. I just have a passion for social change and get welfare policies to people that need it. So
people thought I was crazy.
This joke's really just to highlight the issues with that.
People really thought I was crazy going into the big city and getting my master's degree at DeVry University, but I proved them wrong. So that's all.
You learn a lot there. You learn a lot, and there's a lot of tragedies that are kind of hard to express or to talk about in an honest sense. But if you package it as a joke, if you make people laugh, you make them listen. So that's why I tell these jokes. It's because I care. Where are we at in the story?
I didn't know it back then.
World-shattering moment. Yeah. I didn't know it back then, but there were others just like Larry and Mr. Straub. A barista in a coffee shop steamed half the skin off her arm while keeping eye contact with the guy in the drive-thru. doctor at the local clinic. How big was this party?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's my dad's birthday party and 700 people showed up. You're like, what? Oh, really? Also, this really is kind of turning into like The Happening. Like people just kind of like forcibly like killing themselves in like such a brutal way, it seems like. Yeah. Yeah. Did you ever watch Bird Box? No, the one with Sandra Bullock.
Yeah. Do you know the premise of it?
Yeah, like you can't see the thing, so she has to have a like blind or like a.
If you look at it, you kill yourself.
Yeah.
And like nearly all the deaths in that movie are comedic because it's like they just walk into traffic, like jump off of buildings and stuff like that. So this is the meat Bird Box.
It's a great movie about people killing themselves.
What?
There's this great Japanese horror film called, I think it's called Club. Have you heard of that?
Oh, yes. Yeah. It's from the 90s, right?
Yeah, I mean, early 2000s, like 2001, whatever. Apparently, it's kind of cool. It's like a J-pop song over the radio makes people want to kill themselves. Looking into it, it was like apparently around that time in like the mid to late 90s, there was like this huge like unemployment wave in Japan and like tons of people were killing themselves. And that movie was just a response to that, or just it was just kind of interesting. I don't know, but the movie is very interesting. It's really good. Also, sorry, YouTube, the Unalive Club.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, well, I just had.
Didn't I say can I kill myself like 30 seconds into the video though?
That's fine. You just can't say the naughty word.
Lots of people shot themselves, but not one of them aimed for the head. That's a weird touch if you think about it. These people obliterated their torsos or limbs with high-powered rifles at point-blank range. No reason offered. Just a vacant expression as they deleted bits of their bodies and left nothing but ragged stumps. You might be on to something with the whole throat, like they did something to their neck theory.
It just seems a little too coincidental, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. The only one that doesn't match is, well, it's okay. Maybe they're going for the heart, not the throat or like the neck or something. Because it says a doctor put an embolism, like an air embolism into his heart. And then the coffee shop girl steamed half the skin off her arm, but that seems like just a bad attempt.
Yeah.
There was no school the next day, which was the only real clue I got about how panicked the local authorities were. Wouldn't be long before the national authorities joined in on the panic too, but that would come later. That morning, my parents left the house at 9:30 for a meeting at the town hall, and they dropped me off at my grandma's on the way. I waited for them to leave before I told my grandma I was heading out. It was a hot day, and she only nodded her approval as she sat reading with my sister. She hated seeing me play video games and always encouraged me to go make my own adventures outside. I had no plans. Didn't even want to see any of my friends. I thought a lot about Mr. Straub's face as I crossed empty farmers' fields and walked into the woods. I've been to an open casket funeral once. It was for Father Dennis, who'd christened me as a baby. Not that I remember anything about him except his stony face resting gently in the soft white folds of his casket's interior. That seemed so long ago and so sterile that the thought of it was a bit sad, but not a whole lot else. But Mr. Straub's face had frightened me with his swollen lips and bulging eyes. Alive one moment and dead the next, with only pain to separate the two. And yet he looked so bored hanging there from his own broken neck, still wearing those ridiculous red shorts he'd always had on, no matter the weather. Took time to recognize that seeing a dead body had freaked me out. I felt like it shouldn't have messed with me as much as it did, and I guess that's why there was a little bit of anger mixed in with all those thoughts in my head. It's also why I pushed on through the woods until the trees began to thin, marching in the humid summer heat till my t-shirt was soaked and my legs ached. I wanted to feel tired. Wanted it, so the only thing I could think of were my throbbing hamstrings and sunburnt forehead. It ended when I reached the tracks. Shaggy rocks and boulders rose steeply on the opposite side. Only other ways to go were left into town or right into a dark tunnel, its mouth bristling with ivy. At least the air coming from it was cold, so I took a second to stand and catch my breath, feeling the sweat cool and evaporate as the wind billowed gently out of the darkness. I wasn't stupid though. I paid close attention in case I heard the sound of any passing trains, and when I did hear one, I raced off the tracks as quick as I could. It honked as it came past. Another day, and I might have worried that I was going to get in trouble for playing on the rails, but all I could really think of was a thing I'd seen lying by the tracks. It had been lit up by the train as it came roaring out of the tunnel, not far from the entrance. In the strange silence after the train had gone, there was only the dim light of the setting sun to see inside the tunnel. Everything looked the same. Old clothes, broken bottles, discarded crates, trash strewn around wherever it found space. But I knew what I'd seen in the harsh white light of the train's passing beams, and it was a hell of a lot more than garbage. I'd seen a man. He was lying face down. There'd even been a hand, bright and pale like the moon in the night sky. I was sure of it. I didn't know what to do, not right away. I was afraid and didn't want to go inside, but I couldn't just pretend I hadn't seen anything either. I tried shouting to them. If someone down there heard me, they gave no sign of it. It wasn't until I actually stepped into the darkness and let my eyes adjust that I confirmed there really was a man lying down in there. He was draped across the tracks, and he didn't have any legs. Judging by the way the blood stains turned the color of shit, he'd been there for a while. Hell, half a dozen trains must have gone right over him, thinking he was just an old bit of cloth or something. That's if they saw anything at all. In that time, he dried out a little. He wasn't a mummy or anything, but the blood on his stumps and coming out of his mouth looked more like jelly than corn syrup. I was sobbing by this point, crying hard as I tried to make sense of what I was meant to do, while also feeling like all of this was terribly unfair to me. There's a moment where I could almost feel myself wanting to be a kid again. A proper one. Little. One who doesn't have to do things. One who can get upset and scream and run away. I'd only just started to appreciate how badly I'd been messed up by seeing Mr. Straub. And then God went and dropped that kind of nightmare in my lap. Teeth stained black with blood and open eyes that looked at nothing. It felt like a nightmare. Not just the moment with the body, but everything else too. Everything since that beer beneath the tree had felt like it wasn't part of reality anymore. But nightmares end. I was outside, gasping, vomiting, crying my eyes out, when I heard something shuffle in the tunnel I just run out of. Part of me thought that a sound must mean someone was alive and close by, and that meant I wasn't alone. But another part of me thought something else entirely. It was the part of me that took over, stopped me crying or making any more noise. My mouth turned dry as a desert, and all of a sudden I was no longer hot all over, but cold. Freezing cold. My legs were backpedaling away from the tunnel with short, quiet steps. The noise persisted. It was the shuffle of something getting dragged over gravel in old plastic bags. It had a rhythm to it that was slow. The word that springs to mind is one I got taught in biology class a long time ago. Locomotion. Something down there was moving. It was moving towards me. It sounds slow and broken and feeble, but that didn't matter. Somehow, even though I knew it was completely insane, I just knew what was going to come out of that tunnel. I knew it the way the rabbit knows the wolf or the ant knows the spider. But still, when I saw him crawl out of the dark and into the light, I screamed so loud I'd have a sore throat for the next few days. It was the man from the tracks, and even though he moved, he was not alive. I tried telling myself that he couldn't have been dead because only living things move, but that was horseshit. He dragged his bloody, legless torso with one working arm while the other lay dislocated across his back, the fingers of both hands curling as he heaved himself along, and that face, that same empty, gawking expression, just like Mr. Straub's. He wasn't alive. He was a dead thing, and that made him some kind of impossible monster. I turned and ran screaming through the trees. Whole time, I could only think of the thing that was behind me and was trying to close the distance. It didn't matter that it was slow. It didn't matter that I ran for over an hour. It didn't even matter that I wasn't sure if I knew my way home or was even running in the right direction. All that mattered was putting one foot in front of the other until there was nothing left inside me. Time turned funny. Seconds moved in strange staccatos until eventually I collapsed on legs made of rubber. Then I dragged myself into an old tree hollow to hide, and that was where I lost all consciousness. Interesting. So this like old corpse, it's almost like there's a thing inside of it. Like when he says locomotion, it reminded me of the way that like bacteria are described when they move around and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say is like it's not necessarily a zombie. Like it doesn't look like the thing has sentience. It's more so like a parasite that's controlling it inside. So it's like basically piloting a dead body, which I think is pretty sweet.
Yeah. So it's like it wants them to kill themselves maybe so that it can take control, so it has like a full system. But this thing was just laying there getting ran over by trains and then crawls out. That's so sick. Such a cool visual. I want to take a moment to thank today's sponsor, Turtle Beach. Things don't always age well, like my chair that died, but some things like Turtle Beach age great. When I was 12 years old, playing on an Xbox 360, Turtle Beach was the brand to get, and I'm happy to tell you that in 2025, they're still the brand that continues to deliver high-quality sound and comfortable functionality. And since they sent me a pair of their Stealth 700s, I haven't taken them off. These are, without exaggeration, the best headphones I've ever owned. For one, I always had wired headphones because I didn't like dealing with battery life, but the Stealth 700s have 80 hours of runtime per charge. And honestly, I think it may be a bit longer than that. I use them all day while I'm watching videos or recording or doing podcasts, and then at night I use them to play video games with friends. And not only are they higher quality headphones than I've been using, but I forget these things aren't wired because I don't have to charge them for so long. As a matter of fact, since I've moved to this location, I have only charged them one time. And as someone who has to wear headphones for work and games with friends, having something that's so comfortable and the battery lasts so long that I forget it's wireless and I forget I have them on means a lot. They're also the industry's first ever cross-play dual wireless system, meaning instead of putting up with the hassle of Bluetooth or other wireless connections, you just get this little USB port that you plug into the computer and the wireless headset connects directly to that. And what's cool is you can have two of them, so one can go to your computer, the other to your laptop or Xbox, and all you have to do is press a button to switch between one or the other. And on top of it, it also has Bluetooth if you want to just connect it to your phone. I can't recommend Turtle Beach enough, and if you want to get in on their stuff like the Stealth 700, then now's the perfect time. That's because if you head to the link in the description at turtlebeach.com and use the discount code Creepcast, you will be able to get 10% off your entire order. That is right, 10% off. It can be the Stealth 700s or anything else you want for them. Again, just head to turtlebeach.com and use the code Creepcast, and then after you order, they'll ask who sent you. So if you could say us, it would really mean a lot. So get in on it while you can. Thank you to Turtle Beach for sponsoring the show. Their link will be in the description. We are now back to the episode. When I woke up, the sun had set and it was dark. I vomited some, then found my way back to the beaten path and stumbled achingly through the cold night air back to my grandma's farmhouse. Dad was sick. My grandma screamed something to this effect at me as she held down his right arm, while my mother tried to grip his head in her blood-slick hands. He resisted with dumb determination. My little sister cried, watching the scene like a shell-shocked soldier. There was grunting and sobbing, and suddenly, a bang. Then a puff of plaster rained down onto my head, and everyone began to yell and shriek a little louder. Dad had a gun. That was what my grandma was trying to wrestle out of his hands. She held a knife, and that's why there was blood, but I didn't know whose it was. I wasn't sure what she was planning to do with it until she tried to use it to cut his trigger finger off. The scuffle resulted in another bang and a window exploded outwards. I finally ducked and grabbed my sister, rushing her into another room, but there were 3 more explosions and each one broke something inside me. By the time I heard my name being called, I was half deaf and twitching at things that weren't there. My sister pleaded for me to come back, her pink fingers grasping for me as I put her down, but my mother was shouting for me to come help and I wanted to keep my family safe. She told me to get something to tie Dad up while she and my grandma used both arms to pin each of his wrists to the ground. His hand bled weakly as my grandma used every inch of her strength to simultaneously pin him and stop the flow. He thrashed slowly beneath him, his movements languid and easy, but I could tell it was a struggle for them to keep him down. As I ran to the garage, I saw the gun on the ground with my dad's severed finger nearby. I kicked it out of reach before returning shortly with the rope my grandma used to tie the garage door open during hot summers. Mom tied the knots. My grandma tried talking to my dad, and it was one of the few times in my life I saw her as the woman who'd once changed his diapers. Ow. Gosh.
Kind of a sad line. Goddamn.
Ow.
Yeah.
She was so soothing and tender, and her constant muttering that everything would be okay seemed so fragile. She was scared for him. Mom just did everything in her power to wrestle some safety out of the moment. Only once his arms were securely behind his back and she was confident he wasn't breaking free did she stand back, put her hands behind her, and then immediately hunch forward and sob.
Call an ambulance.
My grandma told me as she walked into the other room to get my sister. Before I got the phone, I briefly hugged my mom, who didn't seem to notice. I risked a glance at my dad, who didn't look at anything at all. Dead eyes gazed vacantly at nothing as he fought to free his arms. When he finally looked at me, it was no different to how he looked at the floor or the wall. It's so cool. It's like the parasites or whatever's in him. I assume from the meat because of the mention at the beginning, but whatever's in him is like possessing them and causing them to become like these zombies. Not like
it makes you
traditional
think
zombie,
of
like voodoo zombie.
It makes you think of stuff like that movie The Crazies, or any of these kind of movies where basically somebody has lost control and they become either hyper violent towards themselves or other people. Pretty interesting, like the sadness even to an extent. But this idea of starting the story, and we don't know any of the characters, there's no build up, and it's just right at the point where the party goes south, is very interesting. And now we're just getting these little vignettes of like very strange moments of this kid who we really don't even know either is taking us through this town and his experiences and all the weird shit he's saying. It's just it's like an interesting way to tell the story. I feel like there'd be a lot of like build up first, and then you would get into the big changing moment. But it's just it's cool to just immediately be brought in as like a fly in the wall when shit goes south. Pretty interesting. And we're getting little bits of information about the family as we get into each of these little segments.
It's a fun motif to have the character walk in the midst of the chaos. Where he's like, there's blood. Why is there blood? She's holding a knife. Whose blood is it? He has a gun. It goes off. Like, that's a fun,
it's a lot.
Fun way to piece stuff together.
It's a lot. It feels like tidal waves of just new shit where you're like, what? Like it's kind of like unrelenting so far. The story is.
Christian does a really good job at, for one, his exposition has weight to it, mostly because it's written well, but it's so careful where it's placed. A lot of the story is just actions, like this is happening, this is happening, this is happening. So the exposition feels almost like a breath, and it comes in at good times and stuff like that. It's just a good writer. Yeah,
the exposition doesn't feel like it's holding the viewer's hand. It feels like you're saying, like an air of brevity for a moment.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and a lot happens very quickly.
Yeah. I mean, it's been a roller coaster ride so far.
I didn't go to school the next day either. Some men from the government came to take Dad in the morning, and Mom ordered me to my room when they arrived. She asked them 1,000 questions, but their replies were short and stern. All I managed to overhear were a few muffled phrases.
Please stay put, ma'am. So we'll be in contact with you shortly.
When I ran to my window to look at them walking down the drive, I saw that they all wore masks. One of them saw me staring. Thought he was going to wave, but he didn't. There's a biohazard symbol on their clothes. After they left, Mom focused on making dinner and looking after my sister. She kept me close the whole time, barking anxious questions whenever I tried to leave the room.
Where are you going?
Just the bathroom.
Oh, okay then.
It felt like she was painting normality onto tissue paper, desperately afraid of breaking it. I tried my best to seem like I was okay. That's another.
That's a great line.
I tried my best to seem like I was okay. Last thing I wanted was to feel like some kid who needs his mommy. We mostly just talked about mundane things, but it was hard for both of us. The only time the atmosphere seemed to change was when she asked me something strange halfway through dinner.
Did your father, when you both went hunting a few months back, what did you do with the meat?
I don't know. Dad took care of all that. Why?
The men who took him asked a whole bunch of questions about it.
Then, with a fragile smile,
have you done your homework? They told me your teacher would send you some assignments online.
Just like that, the thin pretense of normality came back. But I was left with a wriggling feeling in my stomach. It didn't go away as the evening marched on. In fact, it only grew worse until I found myself in bed rolling from side to side and thinking about Mom's question. The men who bundled Dad off hadn't seemed like the kind who messed around. They must have some idea what was going on, so why ask about me? On some level, I knew the moment she'd asked me why it was relevant. Dad loved to hunt, and he always brought meat to parties and barbecues. Wasn't it obvious? He brought something back from the woods, hadn't he? I hadn't gone hunting for a long time, nearly 3 months. Every time he asked, I refused, and I think he knew why. On the very last trip, Dad shot 3 deer, but he certainly did not have tags for those.
Yeah, that might have been a little of illegal hunting. That's okay.
Dad got a little excited. He saw.
God, there's so many out here.
Many.
Dad, no!
It's so weird. We were out there by Dad's corn feeder, and it was the middle of the night, but he had a big spotlight. Those jokes make no sense to most of our audience. Dad shot 3 deer, but we only brought back 2. 1 for us, 1 for the town barbecue. Okay, this meat we killed, one for the family, one for the doctor, the barista, your teacher, everyone.
Everyone gets a deer.
The third he shot, but we left it out on the forest floor because by the time it had died, I was pale and shaking, and even Dad couldn't keep the tremor out of his voice. Neither of us had expected the deer to stand up on its hind legs and walk towards us like a man.
Oh, that's fun.
Its gait a heavy and broken thing as it lumbered over the forest floor.
So why he did it was because it was like probably self-defense or something.
Yeah.
What the
All
fuck?
These are 2 tags from the season. Get back in the jar. Oh my gosh. I also love how that comes out of nowhere. How it's like, not nowhere. I mean, obviously the story set precedents for strange things. But it's like a truck hitting you because it's just like, well, on the last trip, he shot 2, one for the barbecue. We didn't bring the third one, though. We were terrified because it was walking on 2 legs.
Yeah,
like,
it's setting up something strange and then revealing it at as the end point of the paragraph. Like, it's just a really fun way to reveal that information.
Yeah,
this episode's sponsored by Mando. The weather's getting cooler, but that doesn't mean you have to hibernate on your hygiene. Just because there's cooler weather and crisp air doesn't mean you're immune to breaking a sweat. So don't let body odor sideline you from going out. Mando deodorant's there to stop odor before it starts. Thanks to Mando's clinical strength sweat control, with 1 swipe, you're good to go. That's because Mando's 2 times better at controlling sweat than the standard deodorant. And most importantly, Mando deodorant doesn't make the odor. It prevents it for all-day protection. Mando starter pack is perfect for new customers. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products for choice, and free shipping. As a special offer for listeners, new customers get 20% off site-wide with our exclusive code. Use code Creepcast at shopmondo.com for 20% off site-wide plus free shipping. That's SHOPMANDO.com. Please support our show and tell them that we sent you, please. We need that. Thank you so much. Thank you to Mondo for sponsoring the show and keeping us smelling better. Thanks, Mondo.
And it had kept coming even after Dad shot it 6 more times. One of the rounds struck it in the head, but still, it shambled forward on 2 misshapen legs as its brains painted the ferns a pestilent gray. When it finally fell, even Dad had gone pale, and in the silent aftermath, I had to go off and be sick in a bush. After that, we cut the trip short. Dad walked me gently back to the truck where 2 deer we'd shot and trussed earlier that day lay waiting in the pickup. I don't think either of us even remembered they were there until later. He'd still asked if I wanted to head out with him each weekend, but he never seemed surprised when I made some excuse. The only time we talked about it was not long before the barbecue when he drove me to school one day. Didn't deal with it head on. He skirted the topic.
Sometimes deers get sick, a little like old folks do. Remember Grandpa? He got real scary towards the end, didn't he? Well, deer get sick too. But we don't have to worry. Same way you couldn't catch what Grandpa had, well, we can't catch what the deer have. Us humans are safe. Just an uncomfortable part of nature. Well, Dad, you're wrong.
This is clearly a sick deer, son. It's like falling over like, 2 legs trying to get to them.
I think your grandpa dying of colon cancer is a bit different than a deer standing upright and withstanding 6 bullets, dude. Don't worry, Daddy can't get sick. Daddy, you look like you're completely yellow and you have gray eyes. Daddy's not sick. I'm totally fine. I told him, just eat your meat.
I want to look like this. It's okay. It had come out of the blue, or at least it seemed like it. I figured it was Dad's way of trying to get me back on board with hunting. I knew he liked me going with him. I'd liked it too, at least until I seen that deer walk towards me on 2 legs. But lying in my bed that night after Mom had gone to sleep, I started to wonder if maybe he hadn't really been trying to convince me. Maybe he carried a little doubt in himself about something he was going to do. What if he'd been trying to convince himself it was okay? 2 deer. I tried remembering what they'd been like. I didn't check them after we got in the truck. Why would I? It seemed as normal as any others as we tied them down, but I hadn't really been paying attention either. I've been hunting since I was 7. Helping Dad was automatic to me, and to top it off, I hadn't known what I was meant to be looking for. I squirmed beneath the sheets and tried so hard to remember every detail of that trip. Most of all, I tried to remember what the first 2 deer Dad had shot were like. They'd gone down so quick, they seemed normal. But Grandpa had been sick with Alzheimer's a long time before he got scary, and I had to figure the same could be true of those deer. Who was to say that the one on hind legs was the only sick creature in the woods that day? I couldn't have forced these thoughts out of my head with a crowbar. At some point I accepted I wasn't getting any sleep that night, and I settled down to torture myself some more until I realized it didn't have to be that way. Dad had an old freezer in the shed, and he sometimes kept meat in there. Not for long, and usually not for eating. He'd used it for things he wanted to skin or try and make a trophy out of, which he rarely did since Mom didn't like that kind of thing in the house. But if the deer weren't in the freezer in the kitchen or the garage, then they might be in the shed. And if I did open up that chest and saw 2 deer bodies in there, that meant whatever was going around and making people hurt themselves couldn't have come from our little hunting trip. I stuck out my room as quietly as I could. Mom was on the phone with my grandma and she was crying. I stopped briefly by her door and listened to see if maybe they knew something I didn't, but after she started talking about how scared she was, I just felt bad and moved on. At least it meant she was too busy to notice me creeping down the stairs. I wanted to see if I could get some more info, but my mom was just crying, and I don't like that, so that's boring. I never liked the shed at the end of the yard. It was rarely used, even by my dad, who kept the lawnmower and some old junk in there. It wasn't the kind of place you kept food, but I had this feeling he didn't keep these deer with the rest of the meat he got from hunting. As I opened the back door and looked over the shadow-covered yard, I found myself thinking about the tunnel and what I'd seen back there. With everything that had happened since, I'd done a good job of convincing myself it had never really happened. The man with no legs who dragged himself out of the darkness had become little more than a half-remembered nightmare. A moment out of time that was incompatible with all logic and reason. But suddenly, it was back with me. All the emotions and thoughts that raced through my head as I'd stared at his rotten flesh and glassy eyes. The walk to the shed wasn't easy. I fought the urge to turn around the entire way there. Each step was like walking on feet made of lead. At the door, I paused with my hand poised by the lock. The house seemed so distant behind me, and I became painfully aware nobody knew I was alone out in the dark. Inside was nearly pitch black. My phone helped me light it up a little, but I didn't touch the nearby switch in case Mom saw it from her window. Cobwebs hung low from the ceiling, and shadows crawled across the floor and walls as I moved closer to the freezer. The entire time I kept expecting something to happen. I even imagined that deer rising from beneath the lid, pushing it open to stand unnaturally tall on its hind legs, where it looked down at me, the same dead eyes I'd seen in my father. The thought scared me so bad I nearly hyperventilated myself straight into a panic attack, but before I had time to really worry about any of that, I found my hand on the freezer latch. I pushed it open and looked inside. The misty vapors cleared to reveal a pile of meat and fur encrusted with ice. There was only one head visible, but I so badly wanted confirmation that there were 2 animals in there that I took a deep breath and reached in to try and pry some of it loose. Some of it came away from the sides with a sound like duct tape, but no matter how deep I rooted around in that mound of bone, antlers, and rock-hard flesh, I couldn't see a sign of the second deer. Had Dad really served everyone sick meat? Was that really what Larry Sitkins, Mr. Straub, and all those other people had killed themselves? The thought made me feel ill. I slammed the freezer shut and walked back to the door in a daze, trying with all my might to swallow the painful weight that settled in my gut. I had 1 foot outside when the freezer door rattled against the latch. The entire world spun around me. My heart sank and my skin froze in a sensation that was growing increasingly familiar. I turned to face the sound, both hands braced against the door, and watched as the hatch slammed itself into the lock once more. The light inside the chest came on for the briefest of moments, and I glimpsed thrashing fur and teeth. Then it happened again and again, and each time I saw bits of hoof and bone and strange musculature that frightened me so deeply I fell down onto my ass and didn't even realize. When the latch finally gave way, the lid flew open and stayed there. Light poured out of the box, and I waited, breath held, for that thing to emerge, to come roaring out of sight and bear down towards me on unnatural legs. But nothing happened. Silence stretched on for what seemed like an eternity until, at last, there was a crash louder than any before, and the entire freezer rocked back and forth and slowly fell over. The deer, or parts of it, fell out with a hard, wet thump. Bits of its chin and face shattered on the hard packaged ground, sending little shards of meat and bones skating across the floor on melting streaks of blood. Some of them even reached my feet. The thing inside moved with the sound of snow crunching beneath your feet. its thick neck and broken head twisting side to side, scanning the shed's interior with faulty eyes. I've never seen anything move like that, not before or since. This was worse than the man in the tunnel, worse by 1,000 times. The deer was still mostly frozen, but some impossible force was making the crystallized water in its own cells, and the result was skin that ripped like tissue and the muscles that cracked and crunched as they tried to flex and contract. It lifted its head and tried to scream. The breathy sound that left its fuzzy black lips made my heart start skipping beats while my bladder emptied. I couldn't help it, couldn't stop myself. And when I looked down and saw pieces of melting flesh start to writhe and wriggle, I tried with all my might to stifle the cry building up in my throat, but it still escaped as a desperate, high-pitched whine. The deer turned its head towards me with a violent swing, another breathy shriek, and then it began to thrash its stiff and frozen legs in a terrifying attempt to get closer. To say it had a predatory look would be inaccurate. Anyone who's seen a predator in action knows that nature is mostly indifferent when it kills. A bear tears into its prey with the same dull look of someone opening their McDonald's. Predators don't hate the things they hunt. But this thing, I could feel its hatred, its malice. It was nothing like what I'd seen in my dad's eyes or even the eyes of the man in the tunnel. But it had spent months in that box, hadn't it? This was the disease when you skip 3 months ahead. Anger, hatred. God, I couldn't even say if it was going to eat me. That's what you think when you see a zombie, right? It's going to try and take a big bite out of you. But this frozen clump of hair and meat and brain lips dragged itself across the floor with an expression like murderous rage. That look of someone ready to beat another living thing to death using its own hands if it had to. Unable to face it a moment longer, I dragged myself back onto my feet and fled, shutting my eyes as I entered the cold night air. I made it 3 steps before I slammed into my dad.
Oh, shit. Oh, shit.
Oh no! Oh no! It was like I'd run full speed into a tree. I bounced back and hit the earth, pain flared up in my coccyx as my father loomed over me. He'd felt cold for the brief moment where we made contact. My mind blocked out the sound of something hideous scrambling in the shed behind me, and the entire world narrowed until it was just the face of the man who'd raised me, looking down with pale, dead eyes.
Dad?
He swallowed, then briefly examined his hands.
I think I'm dead.
He muttered almost as if he was talking to himself.
When did I die?
Okay, so that's actually one of the most haunting.
No.
That's one of the most terrifying lines ever.
Dad, you're starting to freak me out a little bit, okay?
I think I'm dead. When did I die? Being asked by some presence inside of whatever his dad, or whatever the thing is inside of his dad. Oh man. Or like he has some consciousness in there that's infested with all of the whatever it is. So, man, that's so good. I pulled myself up and grabbed his hand. He was cold, but his pulse was racing. I could even see the veins in his forearms throb sickeningly.
Dad, are you okay?
They told me I'm sick.
He said, his eyes gazing vacantly at the empty space behind me.
I think they're right. But there's more.
He looked at me, the intensity of his gaze so powerful that I let go of his hand and took a step back. For the first time in my life, I was scared of him.
I'm not alone in here.
Oh my gosh, dude. Whoa. Oh, that's terrifying. Your conscience of the thing trying to take you over. Oh man. He said, his voice pleading for help. Slowly, his expression twisted into a grotesque mask of agony and desperation.
Oh, Jesus. It isn't just me in here.
I tried to move, but he was a big man, and his arms wrapped around me like steel bands.
Dad!
I cried, struggling to pull myself loose as he sobbed louder and louder.
Dad, Jesus, you gotta let me go.
The shed door burst open. I managed to twist around just enough I could see what came out. I felt an urgent terror crawling up my flesh. The deer had pulled itself loose from the freezer, and it now stood in the doorway on 2 legs. Its body looked all wrong in that posture, like when you twist the limbs around on a doll, probably not far from the truth thinking about it. Dad didn't react, but I began to scream as the nightmare coalesced around me. My father gripping, holding me in place as that horrible thing lurched towards me on 2 legs.
Oh, God.
It moved like claymation or a puppet show had gone wrong, but it was quicker than I feared. Each step brought it closer. I found myself losing what little control I had. I started to scream, started to shriek. I beat at my father with my fist, but he didn't budge an inch. My clenched hands just bounced off his strong shoulders, and it was like I was trying to hurt a punching bag. I started to swear too, started to scream things I thought were bad, then worse, then so bad, I'm not even sure I can blame other people for putting those words in my head. I told my dad I hated him. Called him a son of a bitch, called him even worse. All that commotion got the attention of others. Neighbors' lights started coming on. My mom emerged from the back door, wrapping a robe around herself as she squinted at us in the dark.
What the hell is going on?
She cried as she stumbled towards us, but when she saw that deer, she started screaming too. I don't know why, but I thought that other people appearing would help somehow. That as 2, 3, half a dozen people came stumbling into the open lawns, peering over waist-high fences. It had stopped the slow but inevitable onslaught of that monster. It did no such thing. I had to listen to their confused shouts and cries while gesturing and begging for help. The entire time, the sound of the creature over my shoulder getting closer and closer. Meanwhile, my hands tried to pry away my father's thick arms, but each time I got leverage, he simply flexed and his grip tightened around me. He was muttering something the whole time, but I couldn't hear it. Finally, my mom screamed and ran, swinging the old rake at the space behind me. I heard the impact, the splintering of the wooden handle. Then she stumbled backwards, and I had to twist to get a look at the deer that was now just 6 or 7 feet away, the spokes of a rake still sticking out of its face. The monster looked right at me. It opened its mouth, and I swear to God it was going to talk. But right then, someone shouted,
For the love of God, Alice, get away from that thing!
Alice was my mother's name, and she fell to the floor just seconds before an explosion broke the night, silencing all voices and shattering the deer's head like a crystal ball hitting the ground. My heart raced so fast, I thought for a moment I was going to die. Then I looked down at my dad and finally heard what he'd been mumbling the whole time.
It's in us, and it wants us. It's in us, and it wants us. It's in us, and it wants us.
There isn't much left of Dad these days. I got to visit him a couple times. Fat lot of good it did. As far as I'm concerned, he died that day in the kitchen when he first tried shooting himself. They're treating us in this special hospital. Mom was real upset that visitations are limited, but I think it might be for the best. Her and my sister tested clean. Most people did. I didn't.
Oh, shit.
Mom stuck me in this phone a couple weeks ago, and I've been using that to write. Funny thing is, one of the orderlies saw me on it a few days ago and just laughed. I think that maybe the government aren't too worried about this story getting out. At first, I didn't really get why until I started actually putting all this down into writing. Got to the part where the half man came out of the tunnel, and I realized no one's going to believe me. Still, I got to try. Partly because I want to protect people. Whatever this disease is, it's a hell of a lot more than some twisted prions, and I think that the government knows that. Dad certainly did. Most infected did too. That's why they killed themselves. They wanted out. The voice that comes with this illness is it's like if your brain is just words in a book, and when someone dips that book in a can full of used motor oil, you just want to give in, hand it all over. It wants your body, so whatever you do, don't fight. That's worse. Give it up. In hindsight, we should have let Dad kill himself. What he went through was probably a lot worse than the others who got to die. I sometimes think about going into his room with a pillow, but security's pretty tight around him. As for me, the infection's still in its early phase. It takes everyone differently, and for me, it's taking quite its time. I think it's because of my age. Still, I can sort of feel it under there, growing. I think it's why I'm writing this. It wants me to. The sickness, it lives out in the woods, way, way out, in parts of the soil where the sun hasn't shone in millions of years. It's old enough to remember a time you could walk from Appalachia to what's now called Glasgow. It's been fumbling around out there in the brains of deer and other things. The sickness tells me this, tells me it's learning about this new world, tells me how my mind tastes. But most of all, it tells me it's getting closer.
And that is the end. That was a great one,
nice. Man. That was excellent. My gosh. Back when you could walk from Appalachia to Glasgow. So that's like Pangea, before the continental split. So it's like this thing was from the primordial earth. and it's been out there deep in the soil, and it started to infest and crawl about. And the whole part is dad. So I assume the explosion and his dad falling over is because his mom or someone else shot dad, right?
Yeah,
And that
definitely.
freed him,
One of
and
the
then
half dozen people. Yeah.
Yeah. Someone shot dad, and then he is now infested, and he feels it crawling inside of him. That was such a cool story. And also, the prion, the thing I mentioned earlier, chronic wasting disease is a prion disease. It's this illness deer get that make them lose their mind, and in some cases, kill themselves. I haven't witnessed it, but there are stories of deer getting infected with it and like beating their head on a rock until they're dead. So I imagine the idea is like the when he says this is more than a prion, I imagine the idea is that the government's like, oh, it's just an outbreak of CWD, nothing to worry about, and like obviously people don't know how bad it is. So it like uses a real world kind of analogy, but man, gosh, that was so cool. That was very well done. It's well written. It's a cool horror concept. That was sick.
Yeah, I like that it is very short and sweet. I mean, like as short as it's an hour, but still, I guess it's like this story could have been something way more fleshed out. But I just liked how kind of bare bones it was, just kind of giving us into this world really quick, figuring out all this like weird shit going on, not divulging too much, but not leaving too much out either. You know, it also didn't feel too one note of like, oh, yeah, they just horribly kill themselves. I feel like they kind of added onto it. I think my favorite imagery was really like the meat cooler of like that thing popping open and having the light come out. You can imagine some of the cold fog pouring out of it as well. Really, really creepy. Also, too, at the end when the dad was hugging him or like wouldn't let him go and the thing was moving towards him, I almost wonder if the deer wouldn't have even killed him or if he was like actually going to speak to him like they're, because he knew that, I mean, the kid's infected now. I'm wondering if he was going to just like talk to him.
Yeah, like as the disease speaks to him.
Yeah, or just, I mean like zombies don't attack each other, right? I just didn't know if it was going to be something. I just didn't know if it was going to be something where it comes up and it's like just either and like I don't know, enhances the parasites, does something. It just I always wonder, or like I've been wondering since because it looked like it was going to speak. I was wondering if it was going to say something to him or do something else that might have just been fucking creepy before its head was blown off.
Mm-hmm.
To the idea that the dad is just still alive and is just like basically a corpse that they're just examining is pretty gruesome. And also too, he's just now even the kid is stuck up there too at the hospital. Pretty interesting. I also like the line earlier that was like, I waved at the people in the hazmat suits. I thought that they might wave back, but they didn't. Just kind of shows, I guess, how like futile or like how they're not even looking at them like people in a bit of a way. Like it's like, oh shit, yeah, they're gone. Yep, that's it. That is what it is. This is one of those things too where, I don't know his stories, man. This has got to be the shortest one we've read by him, right?
I feel like the astronaut one was pretty short too. The episode was longer because there was like a 15-minute tangent about your Mr. Floppy friend. But I feel like most of them are right around like 40 minutes to an hour.
It's interesting. I guess it's just this is the first one I feel like the characters are very generalized. I feel like the other stories, it's like we get a very intimate understanding of like the people, where they're going, what's going on here. It was just kind of an interesting way. It just felt a bit different. It didn't feel like a typical Christian Wallace story. The only time I was like, oh, yep, there it is whenever there's like really great one-liners and also really fun reveals. Like that's like the biggest thing. Mm-hmm. I ran outside and then I bumped into my dad. It's just like it's always like an afterthought. It's always something where you're riding around the ride and then all of a sudden, boom, you stop and you get hit by a fun reveal or some kind of thing that's taking the story in a darker direction or a creepier or like, some kind of like scare. So that's a lot of fun. But that's your Creepcast episode this week. Be sure to come back next week for some more scares. And also, like we said before, we'll leave all of Christian Wallace's stuff in the description below. Be sure to pick up some physical copies of stuff. Physical books are dope.
I highly recommend reading this dude's stuff, even if it's just on like of course support the artist. But I mean, scrolling through his Reddit, some of these stories are titled like, "Do not pray to God in the desert. I've been squatting in a condemned high rise. The second coming of Christ already come and gone. I should know. I performed his autopsy." Like titles like that are awesome.
Yeah, so, I mean, like we're gonna have to
read this guy's stuff.
We're gonna have to keep diving into his stories just for our own reading pleasure here on the show, because every time we read it, it's always a good time.
He don't miss. He's too good.
He don't miss. And if you're an audio listener and you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, thank you so much for listening. We appreciate you. And also thank you to the patrons who support the channel as well. We appreciate you as well. And also we still got merch. So be sure to go check the merch in the description below or in the comments. It might be pinned or something. Check it out there at creepcast.store. And until next time, guys, stay creeped and have a beautiful rest of your day.
Stay creeped. And, you started this episode talking about you being naked next to my bed, and I think that's thrown me off the whole time. So if you see Hunter naked or clothed, really, it's now a self-defense situation. So you should kill him. You should kill Hunter. Bye.